Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, new rules lead to a new battle over legal immigration.
If people are not able to be self-sufficient, then this negative factor is going to bear very heavily against them.
Why needing financial assistance could now disqualify people from getting a green card. Plus, California is stepping up its firefighting efforts to prevent another year of destruction. How they plan to burn a path to success. And heads up, your SDG&E bill might be going up. What the utility company is proposing. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. It's Monday, August 12th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. A new battle is brewing tonight over immigration, this time over new rules by the Trump administration that could limit illegal immigration into the U.S. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler explains the changes.
The number of legal immigrants allowed to enter and stay in the U.S. could dramatically drop.
Today, USCIS, the agency I head as part of the Department of Homeland Security, has issued a rule that encourages and ensures self-reliance and self-sufficiency for those seeking to come to or to stay in the United States.
The new rule would make it easier to reject green card and visa applications for legal immigrants who rely on or who are likely to rely on public benefits in the future.
It will also help promote immigrants' success in the United States as they seek opportunity here. If people are not able to be self-sufficient, then this negative factor is going to bear very heavily against them in a decision about whether they'll be able to become a legal permanent resident. A poor person can be prepared to be self-sufficient. Many have been through the history of this country. So let's not look at that as the be-all and end-all. It's not the deciding factor, which is why we continue to use the totality of circumstances test.
But critics say the move specifically targets low-income immigrants, would keep families apart, and prompt legal residents to forego needed public aid, which could also impact their U.S. citizen children.
America is at its best when it helps people who fall down get up and become independent, contributing members of society. People like myself and my family were allowed to become contributing members again. And that is something that, unfortunately, this new rule and regulation harms.
Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
The regulation is likely to meet legal challenges. Also today, the Trump administration rolled out a broad scale back of the Endangered Species Act. The overhaul includes changing how federal agencies decide if a species qualifies for protections. The Trump administration says the goal is to improve efficiency while focusing on rare species. Democratic lawmakers and conservation groups are denouncing the move that they claim could speed up extinction for some animals and plants. Another horse has died at the Del Mar racetrack. The 3-year-old horse was euthanized after injuring her pelvis this morning. Del Mar officials haven't released much information on how the injury happened, except that it was during training. This is the 4th horse death at the track this summer. 2 horses died in a collision, and another was euthanized after a separate training accident. California is fighting fire with fire. A series of prescribed burns combined with new funding and firefighting equipment is being used to help the state prevent the catastrophic destruction seen over the years. California's steep terrain, downed trees, and other fuels add to the risk. Controlled burns can help, and some people argue even more should be allowed.
Prescribed burns reduce dead and down fuel that's on the ground, and they also thin out a lot of undergrowth. Like smaller trees or brushy material, manzanitas or shade-tolerant species. And in that way, they create a more open forest floor. So if a wildfire, such as the Rough Fire or another big wildfire like that, came down on this area, it would reach this area that's already had a lot of vegetation removed with the prescribed fire, and that would do a lot to slow or even stop that approaching wildfire.
So far, this fire season is off to a slow start. Experts predict this will be a less damaging year than ones past, due in part to improved vegetation control. SDG&E is looking to increase electric bills for some of its customers while reducing rates for others. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman looks at who will be getting hit and why.
The minimum bill amount currently is about $10 a month. And we're proposing to increase it to about $38 a month.
San Diego Gas and Electric says the proposed increase comes as more customers are turning to solar. While solar panels might be saving this home money, SDG&E says homes without solar are paying more than they should be.
A solar household may not pay their full cost of service in terms of us giving them electricity. And that cost is then shifted to a non-solar household for the grid to be maintained and operated.
They don't want people to install rooftop solar. They don't want people to make their homes energy efficient. They do want to encourage even more energy use.
Nicole Capritz with the Climate Action Campaign says raising the minimum charge is a tactic by SDG&E to keep people from going solar.
It's no longer a fair return on investment because there's this $40 fixed charge that would basically not make it economical any longer to install rooftop solar or to make your home energy efficient.
Capritz says the proposal is a power grab by the utility.
I mean, it's outrageous. It's just another example of SDG&E putting profit over San Diego families.
But SDG&E spokesman Wes Jones says this is not about making money.
This is revenue neutral. This company will not make more money as a result of those proposals. This is about equity. This is about making sure, regardless of the customer type, everybody's paying their fair share to access the grid.
SDG&E says about 12% of its customers use solar, and those customers represent a cost shift to non-solar customers of more than $400 million per year.
And we've got nearly 160,000 customers that have private rooftop solar, and we support that choice. But again, we don't necessarily feel that should create an increased cost burden on another customer without private rooftop solar.
While some solar and low-use customers might see an increased bill, SDG&E says the proposal would lower costs for everybody else.
The majority of our customers could actually benefit from this via lower bills.
Capritz says the only way to counter SDG&E is for local governments to control the buying and selling of electricity, which is known commonly as community choice energy.
Bring, competition, make them, adjust and adapt to a competitive arena the same way every other business and industry in America have to do.
It's worth noting that the $38 minimum bill is a request by SDG&E and must be approved by the California Public Utilities Commission. The commission could lower that amount or deny the request entirely. A decision is expected by spring of 2020. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
SDG&E estimates around 20% of its customers would see an increased bill under the proposal. The measles outbreak in the U.S. is not letting up. Over the weekend, the number of cases reached nearly 1,200, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That's an increase of 10 cases from the previous week. 30 states, including California, have confirmed cases. The CDC says in most cases, those getting measles weren't vaccinated. Just last week, health officials here confirmed the county's first case was an 11-month-old who contracted measles while visiting the Philippines. There's a new effort to even out the playing field for some San Diego entrepreneurs. Innovation Up is a program focusing on economic development in underserved communities, including Linda Vista and Rolando. The program offers training on financial literacy, marketing, government contracting, and more. Entrepreneur Ruth Young says it's helped her with the legal side of developing her Genius On bed sheets.
When you don't have the money, there is a lot of disadvantages, and you can't afford a patent attorney. You can't afford to get into protecting your ideas because you just don't have the financial support. But through programs like this, free of cost to a small business owners as me, it's a huge advantage.
Young hopes to have her sheets on the market very soon. Kids in San Diego's college area will have a new place to play. Today was the groundbreaking of a 37,000 square foot facility. It's on Mohawk Street on the campus of Harriet Tubman Village Charter School. The playground and grass park will be open to the public after school hours and during school breaks as part of the city and district's Play All Day initiative. A new attraction at the border blends art and technology. The mural tells the stories of immigrants who were deported back to Mexico. It's the idea of a doctoral student who wrapped up her work this weekend.
They're the faces of the deported, people who came to the U.S. illegally as children. Now their faces are part of an interactive mural at Playas de Tijuana.
For this project, I wanted to do a little test run and actually apply these QR codes to the wall.
Lisbeth de la Cruz Santana says this setting has a special meaning. It's where her father crossed into the U.S. illegally before she was born.
Because I do want people to know these stories, and I feel with technology, that's one of the best ways and venues people could actually have the opportunity to know the stories of those who have chosen to share their stories with humanized interpretation or documented.
If you scan your phone to the mural, you'll be taken to a website to hear first-person narratives voiced by the people depicted.
I entered the United States through McAllen, Texas, in the year January 28, 1955.
Some of my earliest memories of being undocumented come from just being in the car with my parents.
Those who were in the mural also lent a hand in its painting. They were led by Fresno-based artist Mauro Carrera.
It's been a complex project in a complex place, full of emotions, including for myself.
He says he also has a personal connection to the work.
I was born in Veracruz and migrated with my family when I was 4 through Tijuana. It means a lot to me. It feels like a full circle.
A new UN report warns that climate change is threatening the world's food supply. Farmers across Iowa and Nebraska are already feeling the effects, but some are taking innovative steps and measures to continue to grow. Bill Weir reports.
We had a very, very wet spring and
too much rain to
plant.
Justin Jordan is among the millions of American farmers living on an emotional roller coaster that only seems to go down.
So this corn is almost 2 feet shorter than it normally is.
Thanks to a bizarro spring, he's looking at a 30% drop in yield.
It's a kind of feeling of helplessness and stress is what it kind of feels like.
Yeah.
So, but you just do what you can with what you have to work with.
At least he has a crop. Too many farmers lost everything to epic floods, and even the lucky ones are losing sleep over fear of an early frost, and trade wars, and the highest farm debt in a generation. And on top of it all comes the latest alarming report from the IPCC, which finds that growing food from India to Iowa will only get harder as the climate gets harsher.
So we're going to see by mid-century, by current projections, that our number of days above 90 degrees is going to rise from about 17 days per year above 90 degrees in Des Moines. That'll be up more like 50 to 70.
The report finds that about 3/4 of the Earth's ice-free surface has been paved, plowed, or deforested. Great for economies, horrible for nature's cycles. And with all the diesel and fertilizer used to grow the modern meal, they say agriculture is to blame for nearly 1/4 of greenhouse gas emissions. But here's the good news. Right now, every corn plant in this field is pulling carbon out of the sky and putting it in the ground. And with the right amount of innovation and financial motivation, a smart farmer can leave it there and still feed the world. Iowa could be one giant carbon sink. And unlike miners and drillers and frackers, they don't have to change careers in order to help save life as we know it.
Just listen to all the birds, too. Something you don't hear when you walk out in the cornfield. I mean, there's just so much more, like I said, not only the plant biodiversity, but the wildlife diversity.
Life.
Exactly,
Life.
exactly.
Justin takes advantage of a federal program that pays him to let part of his fields go wild, which brings higher yields in the long term. Over in Nebraska, Brandon Honeycutt is trying out cutting-edge science funded by Bill Gates that uses bacteria instead of synthetic fertilizer, the stuff that creates ocean dead zones and red tides.
That's all a petroleum-based kind of products, industry that we live in. And the more we can move to a more natural, bacterial-based, I think that's better for all of us.
And even some conservatives like Ray Gasser are joining this green revolution, even though the Republican refuses to blame a warming planet entirely on human habits.
So how do you feel about big members of your party, even the president, casting doubt and skepticism into whether or not humans can even help stop this?
Well, I think it's more about not having severe regulations. You know, I think one-size-fits-all regulations really does not fit agriculture anywhere.
Well, like many Republican neighbors, he still embraces wind energy. cover crops, and soil conservation.
As we farm a little bit differently, as we sequester nutrients and carbon, we're doing the right thing, and that's what it's about, is trying to do the right thing. We all want to do that.
Absolutely.
And it shouldn't be political.
Amen, brother.
The Dead Sea is shrinking faster than ever before. It's yet another change caused in part by global warming. Those who live there say the unprecedented evaporation needs to be urgently addressed. KPBS reporter Shalina Chatlani explains.
A quarter-mile below sea level, the Dead Sea is smaller and saltier than ever before. Tourists still flock to some points along the Dead Sea shoreline to swim in its clear, buoyant water. But just getting to the shoreline takes a lot longer today than it used to. Here at Endangered, the beach is now more than a mile away from where it once used to be.
I came the first time in 1979, and when I arrived the first time to the Dead Sea, the sea came right up to the road where the bus turns right. And I thought, wow, I can touch the sea. Now, at the same spot, you can hardly see the sea.
But as the level of the shoreline has receded, that's exposed salt layers that dissolve in fresh water. Since the 1980s, that's led to the appearance of sinkholes or pits appearing in places along the beach. In some places, the pits are now so prevalent that public beaches have been closed down. They've wreaked havoc to beaches, campgrounds, farms, homes, resorts, and roads.
You can see around here, it was camping for tourists. It was really, really lively, a green garden, lots of tourists coming here, staying here. Lots of Israelis still remember the place. They used to come for holidays here. Look what a mess this place is. We can't even approach the place to clear it up. We can't clean anything or take anything out, because you always are in danger of collapsing or falling into a sinkhole.
According to geologists at Hebrew University, the Dead Sea today is retreating at an unprecedented pace. They point to damming and mineral extraction as the main culprits. A drop in rainfall in recent years hasn't helped either. Experts say droughts are likely to proliferate in the region in the future due to climate change.
The natural changes in the elevation, in the water level of the Dead Sea never reached this modern retreat, which is more than 1 meter per year. So we see really a kind of environmental catastrophe that is caused by human activities.
They also estimate the Dead Sea could recede by another half a mile. If that's the case, the buildings that dot today's shoreline could serve as a reminder for future visitors of where the Dead Sea used to be. For KPBS News, I'm Shalina Chatlani.
A heat wave is in the forecast. Meteorologist Erin Calandra tells us what we can expect.
Well, things are going to be warming up here over the next couple of days. We have a big ridge developing over the southwest, and you'll notice those temperatures creeping up by midweek. For now, things are pretty quiet. It is monsoon season, so there is some extra moisture around, but we are not expecting any kind of rain in Southern California and really across much of California. We're under a dry, quiet pattern. For tonight, 64 degrees for the low. It'll be cloudy, those clouds building in off the ocean. By midday, we'll have plenty of sunshine again. So Oceanside, expect those clouds at 61, San Diego at 64 for tonight, and in Ramona, 55, Borrego Springs at 77 with clear skies. Now, here we are Tuesday, and you can see it is warming up, not just for us, but really across the southwest, especially for the deserts. So our friends who live in the eastern side of the county, you should expect to see those temperatures creeping on up. 109 for Borrego Springs. Tomorrow, Mount Laguna up to 82 in the mountains. Ramona 95 degrees. Make sure you're drinking lots of water. And Oceanside, a temperature of 78. San Diego as well with sunshine. So what do you do to beat the heat? Well, avoid outdoor activities during the day. Get out there and take the jog early in the morning or late in the evening. Wear white or light clothing to reflect the sun, and also keep watch on pets, children, and the elderly. Make sure everyone's staying hydrated and cool. So here we are midweek. It's still hot, it's still dry, and that's going to increase over the next couple of days. So here we are at 81 Wednesday. We go up to 80 on Thursday. And then things start to cool down. Back to average temperatures for the end of the week and into Saturday in the 70s. 95 will be the hottest day of the week. Inland, that's Wednesday, and then we slowly start to drop back down into the upper 80s and finally the low 80s by Saturday. And in the deserts, we're well into the 100s each day. 113 Wednesday and Thursday, so perhaps try to avoid outdoor activities those days. And in the mountains, we're in the low 80s each day till Saturday. That's when we drop back down to 76. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Back to you.
50 years ago this week, 500,000 people came together in celebration of peace, music, and love. The event, of course, was Woodstock. Reporter Paul Verkaman takes a trip down memory lane with a concert goer who's still on a Woodstock high after all these years.
I just can't believe that I saw all of those people in one weekend. It is more than any music lover could have asked for.
Maureen McFadden saw it all in the muddy mess 50 years ago, the Woodstock Music Festival in New York. Jimi Hendrix. Baby. Santana. The Who.
They played every frickin' great song that they had ever written up to that point.
In 1969, McFadden, a 17-year-old theater nerd from Philadelphia, defied her mother's wishes and traveled to Woodstock. Her fellow actor, Denise Montana, came along. They loaded up to get loaded.
We had our mescaline and we had our hashish, and it did enhance everything. And that's, I think, everybody took care of everybody at Woodstock.
In this psychedelic celebration, the young stage actresses said they met handsome German bikers and made out.
And they had really long hair. It didn't matter that they couldn't speak English, broken English, it was fine. They were rebels, and we were rebels, so.
For McFadden, the real romance was with her rock idols and the spirit of Woodstock.
There are a lot of people who still live by the Woodstock credo of peace and love. I've signed my letters, peace and love, ever since. And I've had a couple people in business say, peace and love, though? And I'm like, yeah, peace and love. Don't forget about that. That's what it's all about.
McFadden is an entertainment publicist.
And you would argue that right now, in these troubled times, we could use another Woodstock.
Damn straight we could. Damn straight we could. We need to be reminded about that. That it's not all the bull that we hear every day. Take a breath. Think of where you are. Think of who you love. Keep them here.
Paul Verkaman, CNN, Santa Barbara, California.
Sweet. And from Woodstock to Alien Stock. What started out as a joke is now its own festival. 30,000 people are expected to land in the small desert town of Rachel, Nevada. Joe Bartels explains the attraction.
Nestled among the alien landscape, where desert shrubs outnumber those who live here, Connie West at the Little Alien in Rachel, Nevada is preparing for the invasion.
In 3 days, we had over 1,800 missed calls.
The Storm Area 51 event has given way to Alien Stock, a 3-day festival on 30 acres in Rachel, Nevada, the nearest town to the top secret military installation in the dusty Nevada desert.
Got to deal with the vendors and the food trucks and the county and trying to make sure that my community is safe and stays clean.
Connie says coordination is key and public safety is at the top of the list. The only hospital and emergency room in Lincoln County is about an hour and a half away from Rachel. It has 3 ER beds, 1 intensive care bed, and 4 other acute beds for care. The hospital is working on a plan for the influx of potential patients if needed during the festival. West says the Lincoln County Sheriff is also working on public safety plans. She is contracting on-site security and will have medical staff on site.
It's a lot. It is truly a lot more than I thought I could handle.
Not far down the road, the Alien Research Center is working on their own setup for the September 20th event.
They're going to come no matter what we do. If we don't do anything, they're still going to come. I'd rather do something, have something planned so you can funnel people through so you don't have 30,000 people just running amok.
Harris says no one is getting onto the Area 51 property. It's the fortress of military secrets, the hub of conspiracy theories and rumored UFOs and aliens. But the idea just to be close enough in Rachel, Nevada continues to draw attention from around the world.
I have a counter on it, down to the minute. Just to remind myself.
Business at the little alien is booming now, even weeks before the countdown ends.
The Alien Stock website says the event will include camping and well-known musical acts. Now you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.